The bag was already tearing when I caught up to her. "You're going to lose the eggs," I said. Eleanor didn't turn around. "I am aware of the eggs, Walter. I'm just saying, physics doesn't care about your pride. Physics can mind its own business." The paper gave out on business. 6 eggs, a bag of flour, and what I can only describe as an aggressive amount of lemons hit the sidewalk in front of the building. 1 egg rolled under a parked car like it was trying to escape the whole situation. I bent down before she could stop me. "Don't." I didn't say anything. "You were about to say I've got it." I was about to say I've got it. "See? I know you." I gathered the lemons into my jacket like a man collecting evidence. "Go upstairs. I'll bring the rest." Eleanor stood there a second too long, hand on her hip, giving me the look she'd been giving me for 11 months now, the one that said she was deciding whether to argue or let me win. She let me win, which with Eleanor was rarer than the eggs surviving that fall. "Fine," she said. "But if you eat a lemon on the way up, I'll know." "Why would I eat a lemon?" "You ate a raw carrot in the elevator last week. I don't trust you around produce." She disappeared through the lobby door, and I stood on the sidewalk holding a jacket full of citrus, grinning like an idiot at nothing in particular. Here's what you should know about Eleanor Voss before I go any further. She'd been a widow for 6 years. She played bridge on Tuesdays with a level of aggression that frightened the other widows. She'd once told me, with total sincerity, that she didn't believe in wasting time being coy about her opinions, because she didn't have the decades left to spare on politeness. I liked that about her immediately. I liked a lot of things about her immediately, if I'm honest, though it took me considerably longer to admit that to myself than it should have. I was 71, she was 68. We met in the elevator of a building neither of us particularly loved, in a city neither of us had planned to grow old in, on a Tuesday when the elevator broke down between the 3rd and 4th floors for 11 minutes. 11 minutes is a long time to stand next to a stranger. By minute 4, we'd exhausted the weather. By minute 7, she'd told me her husband had died of a heart attack while arguing with a referee on television, which she found, even years later, extremely on brand. By minute 9, I was laughing harder than I had, in longer than I wanted to think about. By minute 11, when the doors finally opened, I already knew I was going to find a reason to see her again. The reason turned out to be Groceries. It was always Groceries. There is nothing more suspicious, I have learned, than a man who develops a sudden and passionate interest in helping a woman carry canned goods up 4 flights of stairs. But nobody in this building had working legs for gossip, and Eleanor never called me on it, so we kept up the ritual. Tuesdays and Thursdays mostly. Sometimes Saturdays, if the farmer's market ran long and her arms gave out on principle before her pride did. I caught up to her by the mailboxes, arms full, jacket sagging with lemons. "You look ridiculous," she said, holding the elevator. "I look like a man who saved your breakfast. You look like you robbed an orchard." The elevator groaned upward. Eleanor leaned against the mirrored wall, watching me try to balance a bag of flour against my hip, without dropping anything else. "You didn't have to run after me," she said, quieter now. Not an accusation. Just an observation, the way she made most of her observations, like she was filing away evidence for a case she hadn't decided whether to bring. "I know. You do this every time. I'm aware. You're going to throw your back out one of these days, chasing my groceries down the sidewalk." "Eleanor, my back has been out since the Clinton administration. This isn't the thing that finishes me off." She almost smiled. Almost. With Eleanor, you learn to read the almosts. The doors opened on 4. She went ahead, keys already out, and I followed with my arms full and my jacket smelling like a citrus grove. Her apartment door had a brass knocker shaped like an owl, that she swore came with the unit, though I had my suspicions she'd bought it herself and just liked pretending otherwise. The hallway outside her door was narrow, lit by one flickering bulb the building super had been getting to since March, and it always felt, walking down it, like stepping into somewhere private, somewhere just for the 2 of us, even though 6 other apartments opened onto the same hall. She unlocked the door but didn't open it, just stood there with her hand on the knob, looking at me instead. "You're staring," I said. "I'm thinking." "That's more concerning." "Walter," she said my name like she was testing the weight of it. "Do you know why I let you carry my groceries?" "Because I'm charming and you have weak upper body strength." "My upper body strength is fine." She shifted the bag in her arms, which undercut the point slightly. And I had the good sense not to mention it. I let you because the first week we met, you carried Mrs. Patterson's groceries up too, and you didn't even like Mrs. Patterson. Nobody likes Mrs. Patterson. She reported my recycling to the board. But you still did it. And I thought, there's a man who does the kind thing even when there's nothing in it for him. I hadn't met one of those in a long time. I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing, which is usually the wisest choice for me in these situations. The hallway bulb flickered again, buzzing faintly, like it was eavesdropping. George used to say I was a hard woman to impress, she went on. He wasn't wrong. I've spent 30 years watching people be kind for an audience. Kind because someone was looking. You've never once looked like you were performing for anybody. I wasn't aware I was being evaluated. You've been being evaluated since minute 4 in that elevator. That got a real laugh out of me, and something in her expression loosened when it did, like she'd been waiting to see if I would take it seriously or turn it into a joke, and I'd found the exact right amount of both. So, I said, shifting the lemons again because my arms were beginning to protest, did I pass? You're standing in my hallway holding my groceries hostage. What do you think? I think you're stalling. I am absolutely stalling. Why? She looked down at the keys still in her hand, then back up at me, and for a second the joking dropped away entirely, and what was left underneath it was something quieter and more nervous than anything I'd seen from Eleanor Voss in 11 months of knowing her. Because I'm 68 years old, she said, and I have not done this in longer than I can comfortably admit, and I keep telling myself I'm too old to feel nervous standing outside my own front door, and yet here I am. Eleanor, let me finish, or I'll lose my nerve. She took a breath. I like you, Walter. I've liked you since the elevator, and I've spent 11 months finding excuses to buy more groceries than I need, so you'd have a reason to walk me home. Which, in retrospect, is probably why I now own 4 bags of flour I have no use for. I wondered about the flour. Don't interrupt a confession. Sorry. She laughed, short and a little shaky, and set her bag down on the floor by her feet, freeing both hands, which she then didn't seem to know what to do with, so she crossed her arms instead. I don't want to make this complicated, she said. I've had complicated. I had 31 years of complicated with a man who loved me, and also once forgot our anniversary because of a football game, and I'm not looking to relive the arguing part of love again. I'm 68. I don't have decades to spend being coy. You mentioned that. The bridge philosophy. The bridge philosophy applies to more than bridge. She uncrossed her arms, then crossed them again. So I'm going to say the thing plainly, because plainly is the only way I know how to say anything that matters. I would like you to kiss me, right now, in this extremely unglamorous hallway, under this dying light bulb, with a jacket full of lemons between us, because if I wait for the right moment, I am going to talk myself out of it, and I have done quite enough of that already in my life. The bag of flour was starting to slip. I set it down without looking, because I could not, in that moment, take my eyes off her. Eleanor Voss, I said, are you asking me to kiss you, or are you giving me a legal brief? I contain both. I noticed. Well, her chin lifted, that same defiant tilt she gave the other bridge widows right before she took their last trick, but her hands, I noticed, weren't quite steady. Are you going to stand there, analyzing my syntax, or are you going to answer me? I set the lemons down on top of the flour, freeing both arms, and stepped closer. Close enough that the hallway's flickering light caught the gray in her hair and the specific, particular way she was trying very hard to look unafraid. One thing first, I said. She raised an eyebrow. There's a thing first? There's always a thing first with me. You know this. Walter, I've been carrying your groceries for 11 months, I said, because I like the 10 minutes it bought me at your door. Not because I'm charming. Not because I don't like Mrs. Patterson. Because every single time, some part of me hoped it might end exactly like this. Eleanor went very still, the way she did right before she said something true. Then stop talking, she whispered, and kiss me. One kiss first, I said, echoing it back to her like a promise, and then, if you'll have me, about 40 more after it. She stepped in before I finished the sentence, and the hallway light flickered one last time and stayed on, and somewhere behind us the flour bag finally, gently, tipped over, and neither of us noticed, because we were no longer paying attention to groceries at all. Later, much later, sitting on her balcony with 2 cups of tea going cold between us, Eleanor would tell me that she'd rehearsed that speech in the mirror for 3 days before she found the nerve to say it. 3 days, I said. You've had opinions about my recycling faster than that. Recycling doesn't have a heart, Walter. Neither do I, apparently, considering how long it took me to make a move. 11 months. 11 months, I agreed. In my defense, I was carrying a lot of flour. She laughed the real laugh, the one that made the widows at bridge night suspicious, the one that had, somewhere around minute 9 in a broken elevator, made a stranger fall a little bit in love with her, and reached over to take my hand across the small table. I'm glad you were slow, she said. I don't think I'd have believed it if you'd been fast. Believe it now? She looked at me for a long moment, the city lights behind her, the tea going cold, 31 years, and 6 widowed years, and 11 months of groceries behind her too. Ask me again tomorrow, she said, and the day after that. I want to hear it enough times to actually believe it. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I said, same as the groceries. Same as the groceries, she agreed, and kissed me again. No speech required this time, while somewhere inside, 4 abandoned lemons rolled quietly across her kitchen floor, entirely unnoticed and entirely unimportant.